Hey everybody, this is Harry coming to you from Suwannee County, and the roosters are crowing, and it's a beautiful day outside, nice and breezy. It's about 85 degrees or so. Sitting under the tree, shaded, as you can tell, because I'm a little dark here, and I don't care. And yeah, I thought we'd discuss Jay's community chat about soundtrack albums from your favorite soundtrack albums. I didn't bring any with me out here. Most of them are on CD, the ones I have now. And I guess growing up, the soundtrack albums in the 70s and 80s were the big time for me because that's, for movies. And so, like the Rocky soundtrack, which I did not own. Um, Not when it was released, but I did have it on cassette at one time. Anyways, that's one of my favorite soundtrack albums from the 70s, and also liked Car Wash with Rose Royce. That soundtrack, Do the Right Thing, not Do the Right Thing, Let's Do It Again. Staple Singers, the movie from Do the Right, or Let's Do It Again. That I just picked up not too long ago from a thrift store for $1, the Jaws official soundtrack, the original soundtrack album for $1 for Jaws. I cleaned it up. Haven't listened to it yet, but I will eventually here soon because it's summertime. And so, yeah, I am a big fan of those soundtrack albums. The Sting was also a big one. And then late 1969, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. When I was growing up, too, a lot of albums that my parents had were Broadway cast soundtrack. Well, I guess the movie soundtrack, but Broadway cast albums like for Camelot, Hello Dolly, My Fair Lady, and stuff like that. I do have the My Fair Lady soundtrack album for the movie on CD, which I always enjoy that one. And let's see. In the 80s, of course, that was a big time for soundtracks. Top Gun, Footloose, Flashdance, Breakfast Club. I had most of those. Some Kind of Wonderful was another soundtrack album I used to have on CD. But most of them I have on I had on cassette at the time, which a lot of them are gone because they were easy to pop into the car at the time and listen to, but I don't have them anymore. One of my favorite soundtrack albums from the 80s was from a film called Give My Regards to Broad Street by Paul McCartney. I'm a Paul McCartney fan, and that was one of my favorite soundtrack albums from that time. That had the song No More Lonely Nights on it. And I guess scores. I like film scores. I like for Casablanca. You'll find them every once in a while. You'll find a CD which will have the movie dialogue mixed in with it. It comes straight from there. And there goes my neighbors. Yeah, I used to like how the movie soundtrack was tied into the film. Like I remember seeing a film called Desperately Seeking Susan that starred Madonna, didn't have a soundtrack album, if I remember, because I could never find it because it had the Into the Groove was the hit on that one. And go in the store and find out that it was on a B-side of a 12-inch single called Angel, which I wound up buying for that one because Into the Groove was a big hit. It played on the radio and it played on MTV a lot. Another one like Madonna was Crazy for You, that was on the Vision Quest soundtrack. But I remember going to Peach's Records down in Fort Lauderdale, and after I seen the movie, would go look out for the soundtrack because of all the pop hits on it, like The Breakfast Club with Simple Minds. And then the other good thing about with that too, if you're a music fan, is that they would have these bands like Psychedelic Furs or Oingo Boingo, and then you would on there they would have these songs like Dead Man's Party by Oingo Boingo, and then you would wind up looking for other music from the music for the band. So you weren't not familiar with the Psychedelic Furs. You'll say, oh well, they sang Pretty in Pink. I wonder what else they had. So you go look them out. Robert showed in his yesterday that I saw his video yesterday about the soundtrack The Light of Day with Joan Jett and Michael J. Fox. I had that soundtrack on cassette for the longest time. I wore that crap out. Love it. That song Light of Day is so energy driven. He also showed Eddie and the Cruisers, which is one of my other favorite soundtracks from that time. Tender Years. On the Dark Side was on that album too. Was it John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band? They did the songs for that. Another soundtrack I liked was called Streets for the movie Streets of Fire. They had the song I Can Dream About You on it. That was another great soundtrack from those days. Seems like music is not tied in so much except for film scores. It's kind of went back to that where film scores are the big thing now, and not pop songs off of a film. It doesn't sell the movie. I thought back in the 80s that the soundtrack albums actually sold the movies. So they would have great songs like Let's Hear It for the Boy and Footloose. That kind of sold the movie Footloose. And you're like, hey, well, this is great music. Let me go see the movie. So I think a lot of times the soundtrack albums sold the films. A lot of memories, a lot of great stuff, a lot of great scores. Wish I had something here to show you. I just didn't bother. I'm just sitting outside, and I had to dig them out. Just too fucking lazy. And then, I got good news that me and the wife were both tested for the COVID-19 a week ago, and we got our results back yesterday, and we were both negative. So, yay, go back to work. I've been nearly 2 weeks out of work now, so it's been no fun. So I've been watching a few films, buying some still. And listen to music too, I might dig up my Top Gun soundtrack. I like that one a lot. Dirty Dancing soundtrack has a lot of great tunes on it. I might try to dig that one. I think I still have that one on CD somewhere. But yeah, the 80s and the 70s were the big time for soundtracks and music. Now don't forget the Beatles' Help and the Hard Day's Night albums are both soundtrack albums, so at least the American versions of the albums are. So anyways, thank you for watching, listening. Y'all be safe out there, and Black Lives Matter. Bye.